Thank you, Chuck, Kevin, Fred Langstaff, for your words getting us started this morning, and congratulations to Lorna and Kevin for their leadership of the New York State Council of School Superintendents. This is the moment. You see, a year ago, then President Kevin McGowan set the stage for us with the theme of fostering connections. He introduced us to Father Greg Boyle, a Jesuit priest who witnessed the devastating impact of gang violence on his community, on young people in LA. Father Boyle reminded us that a person becomes a person through other people. Another colleague wisely recognized that a traditional challenge for schools is to systematically maintain professional development within our districts that is focused, consistent, and not a one-shot wonder. From this wisdom, we continue this year with the same theme for our collective work, for our advocacy, for our professional development, for our time together and time when we're apart. We must foster connections with each other. Friends, this is the moment that we learn with each other, becoming our best selves through each other, all for a very specific cause. Consider the following statements. We live in a decaying age. Young people no longer respect their parents. They are rude and impatient and have no self-control. Or this one. The young people of today think of nothing but themselves. They have no reverence for their parents or old age. They're impatient of all restraint. They talk as if they alone know everything, and what passes for wisdom in us, foolishness in them. As we hear that grinding phrase, kids these days, we must be reminded that such carping is not new. As the quotes I read attest, it occurred in ancient Egypt in 4000 BCE, in medieval France in the 11th century, and continues now in 2020. But what you and I know is what most people get wrong. It is not kids these days. Kids have been consistent since the dawn of time. They get to make mistakes. They need to think, be creative, question. It might better be said, adults these days. You see, since March, we've all lived under threats, both natural and imposed. Need I have to acknowledge a global health emergency, months of closed school facilities, emergency remote learning. But in addition to these hazards that landed upon us, we have also been threatened by other adults. Did you hear the sound of the tires as we have been continuously thrown under the bus? As school leaders, we've been accused of incompetence. We've been sent letters by state officials in a do this or else format. Government leaders have attempted to shame us. Bureaucrats have had no inhibition in sharing their lack of faith in us. But I have news for all the finger pointers. In the midst of a global pandemic, a world health crisis, skyrocketing unemployment, a challenged healthcare system, a shoddy budget vote process, contradictions in guidance, little to no time to create plans in collaboration with our communities, the very people attending this conference, you, have not sunk to the levels of those who have made attempts to distract the public. You have maintained your core. Your compass is directed at the very principles that shape who we are as leaders, as members of the New York State Council of School Superintendents and our partners in educating all public school children of New York State. Consider this recent headline in Education Week, an article titled, "Worst Job Honors Go to District Heads." The article's title mischaracterizes the leadership of superintendents in America's public schools. Yes, we have been faced with unwinnable situations during the current public health emergency. Beyond this truth, however, lies much more to school leadership than being in complete control or being in charge. Superintendents have worked closely with teachers and communities, doing their best to remain neutral while interpreting the cacophony of inconsistencies and mixed messages created by policymakers. I am one among many, the chief advocates for public school children, prioritizing and championing efforts to serve students in healthy, safe, and academically engaging environments. Being a superintendent means resisting political pressure and railing against inequities perpetuated by state governments. And yes, sometimes there are impossible choices to be made in the midst of competing priorities. The job of public school educators and school leaders, including the superintendent, is one of the best on the planet. We have the opportunity to wake up every day to wonder, strategize, deliberate in creative educational environments. In the midst of unprecedented times where politics has created confusion, I offer congratulations to my superintendent colleagues, to all of you for a job well done. Navigating challenges to better the lives of children and facing inevitable criticism, that's what we do best. You see, the pandemic, the craziness, the inconsistencies, the contradictions, the blame being placed at our feet. To me, this is our annunciation moment as superintendents, the tipping point. The challenges have been and continue to be put before us. You may recall Giles Corey, a figure from the 17th century who was ultimately pressed to death for remaining mute, refusing to make a plea of guilty or not guilty for the witchcraft accusations made against him. At several points during his ordeal of being pressed underneath a board and rocks, Giles is to have stated, "More weight." I do not mean to be naive. I do not intend to neglect the impact that this health emergency has had on each of us. Stress, heightened emotions, incredible challenges, and undeserved anger directed at us. It's taken its toll. Our self-care is critical now more than ever. But I truly believe that this is the moment. This is our moment. Our character and our mettle as school leaders are enhanced by declaring more weight, or maybe a modern day, bring it on. You see, while we wonder about and hope for the craziness to stop, we also recognize that much of this is out of our control. So instead, as superintendents, let us remember what we can influence. We can embrace our kids these days, advocating for their health and safety, fostering opportunities for them to grow and to develop into the future leaders that are sorely needed. We can do this together through our connections as colleagues. Together we can promote self-care. Together we can serve as champions for our kids and communities. The greatest of our world's challenges have been set before us as superintendents. We combat hunger. We improve rates of literacy. We challenge acts of discrimination. We rail against racism. We meet poverty head on. But the work cannot stop now. There is more to do. Our voice has and will continue to make a difference. You see, outwardly, we behave like Teflon, the ickiness of others sliding right off. But inwardly, we're humans. We have hearts. We care. We work endlessly. We're tired of being the target of the battering ram. But we are public school superintendents. We are not in the worst job in America. To continue to do the great work of superintendents, we must continue to foster connections with each other. Together, this is our moment. Join me today and in the coming weeks and months to ensure that this is not forgotten. That we are strong as superintendents, we will not be worn down, we will continue to be a loud and honorable voice to New York's children. Kids these days, this is our moment to make sure it is their moment. Thank you.